Sorry, these great moments in bad timing. Just as I go live, someone else in the household wants to use the kitchen, but that's okay. You can. Oh dear. Be a mysterious, like, ninja warrior wandering around the kitchen. Why? Start the live stream. Well, there's no one here yet. You got in lucky. How's it going? And hello, Toby. Yeah, just settling in, getting set up. Just see how long I last tonight, because I'm starting to think that I'm coming down with a cold, and I might not have the stamina to go the usual duration, but we will see what happens. We are, strong, independent types. You never know what will happen. My Pepsi by the wayside, and hello, Charlie. Yes, so I try not to be flat because I am a little bit run down, and it hurts when I swallow, which is usually a sign that I'm coming down with a cold. So let's hope that's not what's happening. Toby, how's 80? Look, while I've got a bit of time, I might actually a day this week, drive over to his house and see how he is. Pat talks. Is Dutton racist? Yes, Dutton is racist to his core. He is a horrible, less than human, racist potato. He is absolutely vile and disgusting. There you go. That's my subtle balance to both sides. Don't alienate anyone's views. Oh my god! The funny is, I get and back professional journalists doing the whole, presenting without bias. But the idea of, like, people on YouTube, he goes, I'm not biased, I'm showing both sides. It's just pandering. Hey, Tara, how's it going? Frankie, you're waiting for the Angaroo. What specifically do we mean by this? Is this an animation of yours, or is it something I'm missing? But I'm sure you can fill us in on that. I'm just trying to keep my brain working the way I normally have it working. I'm definitely a little bit run down. Hey, Megalich, how's it going? So we'll see. Adam, see, Dutton's worse than Abbott. They are bad in different ways, not completely different. Yeah, worse is very subjective. Abbott has focused most of his energy on being a climate change denier and being against marriage equality. He hasn't spent as much time on race, and certainly he hasn't been responsible for torturing asylum seekers like Dutton. Tari, awesome after 51 chicken nuggets. Wow, okay, cool. Sean, you blinked. Did something happen? Well, since the middle of the day, you mean this morning? There was a attempt at a leadership spill in the Libs. Hey, Logan Paula, and hey, Musical Aviator. Pat talks. Dutton was, in fact, the first mainstream politician to go public with the blatant lie that there was an out-of-control African gang crime in Melbourne. He was actually the first one to go public with it. And hi, Tendai and Locust Trooper. That's a good summary, musical aviator. Australia's confidence restored as spineless, eternal disappointment of a man beats heartless, barbaric potato for Liberal leadership. But that's only temporary. It looks like this doesn't settle things at all. It's extremely temporary. Hey, Agro Pixie. The idea that because Turnbull caught his opponents on the back foot and survived a leadership vote that they didn't have any warning of. The idea that that means there's no more challenges to his leadership is absolutely ridiculous. Like he stays number, but my favourite bit to come out of it was one of the journos covering it. Was talking to a Liberal Party backbencher, saying like, well, there's a vibe going around that rather than allow a second challenge anywhere down the line, Turnbull would call an early election, to which the backbencher fair shit himself is going, no, we're going to do that. We get slaughtered. We're totally fucked at the next election. And there's another one being quoted as saying like, oh, have a heart for us. There's a whole bunch of us who know we're in our last 6 months of government, and we're all banking on getting that 200,000 per year taxpayer money. What'll we do when we lose our jobs? It's like, oh, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. Adam, you think we need a change to the Westminster system? Well, yeah, see, there are swings and roundabouts as far as systems of government. Like, technically the Queen is our head of state. And as we know, those who remember November 11th, 1975, the Queen's representatives can actually sack the democratically elected government. So the foreign head of state we have is not meaningless. But because we don't have a presidential system like the US and many other countries do, the Westminster system is simply the party or coalition that can form majority government. Their leader is the Prime Minister, but that leader is usually the leader based on a vote from within the party. So they can replace them without going to the public. As you can really only replace the president. You can't replace him just because he's unpopular. If you can get him in terms of impeachment, you can maybe get him out. But it is a thing with the Westminster system. The parliamentary party can force a change in leadership without consulting the public. So, yeah. What do you think about QAnon? It's a ridiculous, stupid, childish hoax. And I reckon about half the people pushing it know it's complete fabrication, but they just enjoy sowing discord and chaos. And scary, half of them probably seriously believe the absolutely ridiculous bullshit that's in that conspiracy. And that's it's incredibly disturbing that anyone thinks that ridiculous bullshit is real. But a really disturbing number of people think it's real. Tendo, you think at least my political party infighting doesn't drag a whole country down, threaten a fragile peace agreement? Well, we certainly don't have a significant peace agreement. But yeah, they're certainly going to result in a change of government, I think, at the next election. Ha! Oh dear. Logan Paula, what an idea. You want to pay someone to make some furry art of a representation of me and Celtic King kissing. Dude, you went there. Okay. Yeah, what's that, Rule 43 or whatever it is on the internet? I should know my memes. It's Rule 43, isn't it? That there's porn of everything. But yes, the internet is a strange, unsettling, and sometimes even frightening place. I just realized that might have been missing something in the chat. I'll try and switch. Rule 34. What did I say? 43. Did I reverse the digits? 34. Sorry, Locust Trooper. You just made me laugh. You reckon one of Bearing right-wing dickhead friends made a video saying he'd pay someone to be? Dude, I mean, I've actually been threatened almost non-stop since I've been on YouTube, you know, which is well over 10 years. And the weird thing is, I've made my location known publicly because I have YouTube meetups all the time, and I've made my location known many, many, many times over the years, and none of these mouthy dickheads has ever shown up. Well, Tendai, what would my angry persona be? That's obvious. It's Tasmanian devil. I'm not Tasmanian, but I'm Australian. And the whole angry thing. In fact, an internet friend of mine who's sometimes on the chat, but she's in Canada, so the time zones clash really badly. She's quite a good cartoonist. She's actually drawn me as Tasmanian devil and Aidsy as a wombat. So there you go. And I have shared those on socials from time to time. But yes. That's it, Frankie. Every time my stream starts, audio drops out and you have to reboot. Oh, well, as long as rebooting works. And yes, Megaleech, I have been enjoying The Expanse. I did not watch any of it today. I've been binging it since the weekend, but didn't actually watch any today. I had some other stuff to do. And when I sat down to watch something, I'd been on Twitter and someone was basically doing a little Twitter essay, a love story to Mad Max Fury Road. They were showing all these frames of how beautifully composed all the shots were. And they're absolutely right. Like, Fury Road is way up there with my all-time favorites. It's an amazing film. And because I was home by myself, so I decided I'm going to watch Fury Road with the volume turned way, way up. And so that was a good couple of hours rewatching that because I watched that so many times. I got the disc, a box set from Mrs. Angry says, I'm always difficult to buy for, but last Christmas I said, well, get me the Mad Max High Octane box set. And it's a Blu-ray set of the original Mad Max and the Mad Max 2 or Road Warrior if you're in North America, and then Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, and then Fury Road, and then a special edition of Fury Road in high contrast black and white called the Black and Chrome edition, which is, again, visually amazing. Again, because, and it's kind of amazing how well it works, because when you look at Fury Road, the colors and the color palette in it is amazing. So you can go, oh, don't you miss that in black and white? But no, black and white gives it a whole different life. It's amazing. Was that Tara? I'm for Tony Dum Dum. Oh, yeah, that's right. Abbott went over, probably without us taxpayers paying for him, to hang out with some extreme right-wing homophobic Christian group. He's such a shithead, that guy. And yes, Tindale, you're right. The world does need more Doof Warrior. I love one of the things I love about Fury Road is the number of callbacks to previous Mad Max films, and there's lots of them, and some are more subtle than others. For a simple one, like a flash of white on the screen when Nux headbutts Slick, and that's a thing that happened in Mad Max 2 when Wes headbutted anyone, the screen would flash white. And Even a little thing, George Miller has put people with disabilities in every Mad Max film, different representation in different films. Yes, Sean, music box, callback to Mad Max 2. Some of the shots were callbacks to Mad Max 2. And what's the a thing that's in I think it's in every Mad Max film. With the soundtracks playing, like, you know, instrumental soundtrack is playing, and, you know, as a moody shot comes in, and then there's it cuts in to what you thought was the soundtrack is actually someone within the movie playing music. Now it's biggest and most obvious in Fury Road because of the, you know, the drummer boys and Doof Warrior, but it starts off before you realise there's actually a giant truck full of drummers and the Doof Warrior. The soundtrack just builds up and it's a dun, 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 big heavy drumming soundtrack, and then there's a big tracking shot comes across, and there are actually drummers on the back of the truck. But yeah, in the original Mad Max, Max's wife is playing saxophone. I know in Beyond Thunderdome, there's a guy playing saxophone as well. Trying to think, is anyone playing music in Mad Max 2? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that's a thing that he often does. Oh, sure. Beyond Thunderdome has its pluses and minuses, basically. There is some very good stuff in it. It's not an absolutely fantastic film, but yeah, I think it's worth watching. It has you know, some pluses and minuses. Yeah, Sean, you want to see more Ozploitation films? Yeah, in the 70s and 80s, there were some pretty wild ones. Yeah, Tendai, the fuel bill for Fury Road, they do burn a lot of fuel, and they use a lot of it. Besides all the vehicles and the flamethrowers and the explosions, there's a lot of. Oh, Sean, I'm not sure if I saw Dead End Drive-In. It's one of those ones where you probably wouldn't remember. It's probably not that memorable, but yeah, there was some great horror and other genre Ozploitation films. There was one that had the cop from Mad Max, big bald guy, called Turkey Shoot. That's hilarious. It's hunting the most dangerous game of all, man. Charlie, I don't know that Wake in Fright's Ozploitation. I think Wake in Fright's almost art house compared to Ozploitation, but it is a classic. Approved thoughts. What's Vegemite? Vegemite is a very salty spread Australians like to put on bread and toast. They call it a yeast extract. I believe the original makeup of Vegemite was made from yeast and other gunks scooped off the top of beer vats. But it's a quite strong tasting, very salty spread that some people are very fond of. I don't mind it in moderation, but it's you know, an acquired taste. AngryAussie, you're saying all the vehicles in Fury Road ran on methane. Do you mean conceptually or in real life? This is one of the big things about Fury Road for me. The vehicle designers just had the best time. Like when they chopped all the bits of vehicles and stuck them together and created new and different things. I think they really enjoyed their job. That's the other thing about this Mad Max box set I've got. It's got heaps and heaps of extras. It's got making of documentary about the original Mad Max, Mad Max 2, Mad Max 3, and a whole bunch of extra features for Fury Road. Locust Trooper, what did you see in Melbourne today? You didn't see me. I didn't leave the house. I went to the supermarket. But yeah, okay, Grippy, you're saying they ran on methane in real life. Okay. Yeah. I did not know. Well, I think they still burned a lot of petrol with the flamethrowers and a lot of the explosions looked very much like liquid fuel explosions. And what, God, dealing with a dickhead at work, Frank? What a complete chump. Yeah, I reckon you should go then. Logan Paul, I haven't seen The Thing. As in John Carpenter's one with Kurt Russell. That's a classic. Love that one. That's a classic. Oh, Toby, here's my shot. It's pretty good. Like, I can do that. I can do that. That doesn't hurt at all. Locust Trooper, where were you? Where were you when you saw someone that you thought was me? And then I'll try real hard to remember if I was there. But I barely went out of the house today. Oh, dear, Tara making sexy videos for Celtic King. Well, that will make him happy. Oh, yeah, sure. That I'm with you 100%. John Carpenter's The Thing is friggin' top notch. Both the practical effects in it are really cool and gross and creepy, but the psychological aspect of it is amazing. Do you think? Lake Street, Flinders Street, definitely not me, man. Was nowhere near it. Logan Paul, I have not seen the Meg yet, but I honestly might because it looks like fun. I've got a little bit of time off, free time during the day. I could maybe go and see the Meg. Frankie started watching a film called The Thing. I don't know, and it bored you. Did it have Kurt Russell in it? If it has Kurt Russell in it, that's the thing. Tentai, you heard John Carpenter was playing Destiny. In what? You like the Pingu version. Toby, you should pray to Lord Angry and Saber 80. Oh, Sean, you saw Dumbo for the first time in your life in cinema. I have not. I think I probably did see Dumbo in the cinema when I was a kid, but I would not have seen Dumbo in a cinema since I was a kid. And in fact, I probably watched it on TV as a kid as well. I probably haven't seen Dumbo in decades. Now, of course, they're doing that weird live action version of it. Oh, yeah, Frankie, The Thing was set in Antarctica. Oh, there was a movie that no one said anything good about that came out a year or two ago that was meant to be a prequel. Like the one we're talking about that's good is like from the 80s. It's quite old. There's one that came out a year or two ago that is meant to be a prequel to the good one, and I haven't heard anything good about that. That might be in the one you started. Sean, just you and the person you went with in the cinemas, and that's it. That's a nice private screening. I like that. I like a trooper. I always thought Labor were extremely hot favourites to win the next election. But yeah, the Libs doing this destabilising thing with the leadership is playing into Labor's hands. It's increasing likelihood. I mean, in all likelihood, the sitting government is going to suffer a crushing swing in the next election. I mean, you know, weird things happen, who knows? But the most likely outcome in the next election is a really quite big swing to Labor. And bear in mind, the sitting government only has a 1-seat majority as it is. Toby, does AZ like the butt sex? I would let AZ answer that, although I know the answer is yes. Yes, I tend to not answer questions about other people's sex lives. Well, do I think Trump will win the next presidential election? I still live in hope he'll be in jail by then or in disgrace at the very least. But man, I stopped trying to predict stuff with Trump because nothing about him makes any sense. All right, lunch is over, Frank. Okay, thanks for stopping in, mate, and enjoy your day. Catch you later. Greg, I like that. Some insider gossip that if Dutton got leadership, he's going to make Tony Abbott Minister for Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Women. Yeah, that's about right. Oh, wow. That's a weird one, Megalich. You heard that John Carpenter's The Thing was originally going to be a retelling of Lovecraft's Mountain of Madness. But there was an old sci-fi film. The Thing was basically a remake of a classic sci-fi film. But yeah. Oh, yeah, Locust Trooper Temple, just pathetic. He's so weak. Logan Paul, that's a pretty bleak view that he's going to win because all he scores. I'm not going to argue with you because, like I said, I ceased a while ago trying to predict anything with Trump because none of it makes any sense. So Toby, Celtic King wants to know if I've ever been to jail. No, I've never even been arrested. Unlike OG, who hasn't been like convicted and gone to jail, but he has been arrested and put in cells. No, I've never even been arrested. I've visited jail, but nothing. Brief thoughts. How far do you have to go to see kangaroos and cool animals? Not far. You just have to get out of the suburbs, or sometimes if it's in drought, they'll come into the outer suburbs. Obviously, if you're in a country town, they'll be around. Like when people visit here in Melbourne, like overseas people, I like to take them for a drive up the Great Ocean Road. It's about an hour out of Melbourne, and you can drive for hours along this road. But maybe 2 hours out of Melbourne, there's this really cool spot where you can stop, and there's a koala colony in the trees. So you can just wander around and spot the koalas, yeah, you can take seed and these are really brightly coloured parrots called king parrots. They're pretty big, about this big. Just hold your hand up. They'll land on your hand and eat out of your hand. I always take visitors there. It's pretty cool. And that's true, AgroPixie. We get possums in the city. There are possums around my house. But for bigger animals like kangaroos and koalas, you have to either be on the perimeter suburbs or actually in the country. But yes, I did see some interesting footage. I think it's Broken Hill, because of drought, is being overrun by emus. And emus are pretty imposing. They're, like ostriches, big two-legged, sort of, 2-meter tall, flightless birds. And if dozens of them go running down the street, it's a little bit imposing and threatening. But I think it's Broken Hill that's basically being overrun by the emus because of drought. They're coming into town looking for food and water. Like, will we get a decent prime minister? Well, I am not a fan of Bill Shorten. I think it kind of sucks that he's leader of the Labor Party. He doesn't deserve it. And his whole argument for getting into government is, I'm not those guys. He hasn't done anything inspirational, anything to encourage a belief in him. And after his role twice in the debacle with Gillard and Rudd, he doesn't deserve to be Prime Minister, but he almost certainly will be. He's got some good people in his party, so hopefully he won't completely suck. Yeah, I think it's kind of bullshit that he's leader of the Labor Party and will probably be Prime Minister, because I don't think he deserves it, quite honestly. Tally, you get skinks and blue tongues. Yes, lizards and even snakes can come definitely into towns, if country towns, but even in the suburbs in the city, you'll get snakes. Oh, Proof Thoughts, the big bird that can gut a man. Probably thinking about the cassowary. Everyone's scared about the cassowary. Smaller than emus, but way aggressive, and they look really weird. They've got blue heads, and they've got like a bony ridge on their forehead, and yeah, they are. Everyone is worried that they'll attack you because they do have quite strong legs, and the bloody bone-like ridge on their head is a bit imposing as well. Everyone is kind of scared of cassowaries. When I say they're smaller than emus, they're not that much smaller. They're more than a meter tall, and they can be super aggressive. So everyone's scared of cassowaries. Yeah, Charlie, live dinosaurs. They are definitely very closely related to the dinosaurs. Logan Paula, what do I think about flat earthers brainwashing kids? Flat earthers are fuckwits, honestly. It is absolutely terrifying to me that in this day and age, thousands of years after mathematicians basically proved that the Earth was a globe and in fact quite accurately calculated the size of it, the fact that there are still people saying dumb shit like, no, the Earth's flat, is honestly is a little bit terrifying. Tenguin, you started paying attention to politics recently. Has there ever been a Prime Minister term period, general public? People always divide along party lines. I mean, back in the 80s, early 90s, like Bob Hawke was a populist, certainly. He's basically from the right wing of the Labor Party. He's from the right wing of the union movement. So you would get some lefties who didn't like him, and you would get conservatives who didn't like him. So I guess it depends on what % of the public you think makes a consensus. I honestly don't know an accurate answer to your question. I tell you, you don't have to be a blind lefty to hate Abbott and Turnbull and Dutton. They're fucking garbage. They really are. You just have to be a rational person. Oh, yeah, Logan, no, the idea about brainwashing kids into flat earth bullshit is quite disturbing. Yeah, Toby, you're right. A flat earther, when they say they have evidence, they make no sense. Like, they literally say, I'm looking at the horizon and I can't see a curve. And it's like, oh my God, that is like the lamest argument I can imagine. Yes, proof thoughts. Your cassowary feathers do look a bit like hair, as do emu feathers to a degree as well. But yes. Oh yeah, this foxification with the racist potato, and he's challenging the Prime Minister and losing. And of course, he's not ruling it out, doing it again. But I was actually surprised that he went for it today. Because Turnbull was obviously calling a bluff. He's trying to get ahead of it, going, if I call a leadership ballot with no warning, so my opponents don't have time to mobilise, that's my best chance of surviving. And it worked. It was a very high stakes thing. But I was a little bit surprised when Dutton did throw his hat in the ring. Like, I thought he might have just gone, oh, well, I don't want to challenge you. But Turnbull went, the leadership's vacant. So Abbott's, I mean, bloody hell. Dutton's gone, well, I'm not challenging him now. I never made a challenge. I never voiced a challenge. But he said the leadership is vacant. So I'll say, okay, if it's vacant, I'll put myself up for it. Okay, Bob Hawke's famous ability to scold beers. And hello, Philo and Seela. As the story goes, that he had a record for drinking a yard of ale while he was at Oxford. Not sure if that's actually true or not, but yes, he was a renowned beer drinker, particularly through his union days, he was a rowdy bloke. Even though I remember a few weird records from the 70s because my oldest brother was a brickies labourer, a unionist, and there were union songs. There are a couple in Australia. One is just called "I'm a Union Man" or something, because you don't get me, I'm part of the union. But there was the Bob Hawke drinking song as well, which again, just as we say that, I want to see if it's on YouTube. I bet it is. Everything is. Everything is on YouTube. Bob Hawke. Yeah, the Bob Hawke drinking song. It's showing up as a search thing. Let me see. Yes, at least the audio of it is. There's possibly not ever a video for it. There's Paul Jennings saying it. But yeah, my brother had that record. I heard it heaps, the Bob Hawke drinking song. Proof thoughts. Prime Minister is not the same as President. We were having this discussion a bit earlier. The difference between what we call the Westminster system, based on the English parliamentary system, and a presidential system. In countries that have a president, there's a completely separate vote, where the public votes for the president, and then they also vote for their local representative. And the party that has the most seats in the Legislative Assembly, whatever it's called, they get to make legislation essentially. But the president has particular powers. President can propose laws and veto laws. President tends to drive policy, but the Parliament or the Congress have to go along with what the president says, or they'll be in conflict. But our system, there's no president. It's simply you vote for your local representative, and then the party or coalition that has the most representatives in the Parliament, they get to form a government, and they vote for their own leader internally, and that leader is the Prime Minister. So that's a fun bit of politics. That's entertaining, isn't it? Talking about the difference between Westminster and presidential systems. There you go. Charlie, Hawke said he was teetotaling when he was Prime Minister, and he may have been telling the truth. He was banging his biographer, though. Just throwing that out there. Oh, dear. Hawke had his moments. Hawke and Keating together, who were on the economically conservative side of the Labor Party, they introduced quite a lot of relatively conservative economic policies. They were at the same time very pro-union. So there was a little bit of balance in there. It was an interesting time. That was my youth when Bob Hawke was PM. But then Hawke he stayed on for a long time, and he made a deal with Keating, who had been the policymaker. Hawke was the populist, man of the people, talking to the people, but Keating was the policy guy. Keating was the brain. Hawke was the face and Keating was the brain. And they'd made a deal that at this point, Bobby, you're going to retire, step down from prime ministership, and promote the deputy, Keating, to prime minister. And that was a deal. And they made a deal. And then Hawke backed out of the deal. He went, nah, mate, it wouldn't work. You're not as popular as me. I want to stay prime minister. I like being prime minister. I don't want you to be prime minister. You're not popular enough. And Keating went, oh, really? Fuck you. And then Keating resigned as deputy, sat on the backbench. Unlike Tony Abbott, did not spend a lot of time sniping at Bob Hawke. Just said to the party, hey, you all know he made a deal. You all know he backed out of that deal. And you all know all the policy and anything smart this party's ever done came from me, not him. So I'm just sitting back here and I'm not contributing to policy at all. I'm just sitting here. If you ever want policy to get back on track, you're going to have to have a word in his ear to say, dude, you made a deal. You need to step down. And Hawke resisted the pressure for months, but it did become clear that he was a bit of an empty hat, and he had nothing much to offer. And the party eventually, enough people whispered in Hawke's ear and said, no, dude, you have to go. And so Hawke did resign and Keating was made Prime Minister. And Hawke was really sure Keating wasn't going to win the next election in his own right. And the odds were against him, but he pulled it off, which was quite a little turn up for the books. But then the next election, John Howard got in. Yeah. I like that, David. Yes. Australian politics as a casserole: beetroot, onion, and potato. The beetroot is red-faced rooter, former National Party leader, and the onion is, of course, Tony Abbott from his weird act of eating a raw onion. And yeah, Dutton's the potato because he looks like a fucking potato. He's got a completely featureless face with just a few little divots that are like the eyes on a potato. He's a very disturbing man. I like this, Miss Fox section. Potato also evaded questions on whether he'd offer Abbott a front bench seat if he was PM. It's like, I mean, the fact that fucking Dutton is being considered as leader is hilarious. Like, they haven't learned. Like, it took them a couple years to work out how poisonous electorally Tony Abbott was as leader. Like, he was an effective, brutal opposition leader, but as Prime Minister, he was still just being toxic and abusive, which is not what a Prime Minister does. And the electorate rejected him really badly. And yeah, in the desperate move of putting Turnbull in place, they only just scraped through at the election with a one-seat majority. They suffered the, but Dutton, the fact that they can't see that Dutton is electoral poison is absolutely hilarious. Like, I don't get. Look, it would be one thing if you agreed with his policies. So like, oh no, I'm going to support Dutton because I agree with him on policy, and good. You're going to lose the election. Just look at reality. The guy is electoral poison. And bloody Turnbull's like lost 30 opinion polls in a row, but he's not as unpopular as a person as Dutton is. So if they do it, it'd be hilarious. I mean, yeah, in all probability, at some point, there's going to be an election, and Dutton will probably lose his seat. Like, he's in a really marginal seat, and recent voting patterns have suggested he would lose quite severely. David, that is the big question. The dearth of talent and in the Liberal Party. Who would be the leader? Would be Bishop. Bishop maybe, but I think she faces two problems. One is the number of people in the Liberal Party and I'm not having some bitch tell me what to do, which is the exact problem Julia Gillard faced from people in the Labor movement. And the second one is she's regarded as being tied to the knifing of Tony Abbott, which is regarded as not a good show. But yeah, who else would be like, Morrison? Morrison's actually probably the most likely. I think he's pretty useless. But He's probably most likely. Pine, I don't think anyone takes Pine seriously. Hey, I could be wrong. Maybe in the party room they think he's great, but I don't think anyone in the party particularly takes him seriously. So I don't think he's a goer. Like that misfoxification. Bishop, she has bigger balls than all the blokes in the lib, so maybe she'll just smack him into place. Maybe. I mean, she's certainly a bloody solid parliamentary performer. I'm going to do a little search while we're talking about it. What happens if we do an internet search for possible Liberal leaders? Who gets who gets it? I'm trying to see if someone's proposing it. I mean, I don't know. I think occasionally there are still people stupid enough to suggest Abbott could come back, but that's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking for an article where someone might have proposed, a name might pop up that I hadn't thought of. Getting lots of things to the stuff's all going back to when Turnbull challenged things. Good luck finding alternatives. Yeah, no, I just found an article saying they all suck. You know, Joe Hockey was being lined up, but he resigned. Scott Morrison is an obvious one. I reckon, honestly, if they did it, it'd be like Scott Morrison. You know, longer term, I don't know. Maybe they put the Terminator, Matthias Cormann, into the lower house because the senators can't be a leader of the party. So who knows? Good evening, Henry. Oh yeah, misfoxification. I think Labor are definitely rubbing their hands in glee. They must be so confident of winning the next election. They'd be measuring drapes for their offices in Parliament House and redecorating the lodge. Tara, you worried about if the Prime Minister's a Christian? There's about, as far as I know, about a 99% chance of that. I mean, obviously, Gillard wasn't. That's the funny thing. Like, you know, in America, you have to give slavish lip service to being a Christian. I mean, it's utterly absurd that Donald Trump's regarded as a Christian. People call him a Christian. He's obviously not. He is obviously not and never has been a Christian. And it's super weird that the evangelical Christians are so power mad they back him just because he'll put in policies they like. Yeah, David, Erica Betts could change houses. And yes, no, Erica Betts is not very popular within the Liberal Party. Matthias Cormann seriously could change houses. But no. Obviously, he never even got caught up in the citizenship thing. So he must have gone to great lengths to make sure he changed citizenship because he's German born. And anyone who doesn't know this guy wonders why I'm calling him Terminator, is because he is German and he sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger, basically. Henry, you're saying Shorten's studying Bradbury's. Oh, I was going to say, what the hell do you mean Bradbury's strategy? But you mean the Australian dude who got a gold medal in the ice skating at the Winter Olympics because everyone else literally fell over. Yeah, yeah. No, that is basically how Turnbull is getting to the Prime Minister. David, you might be right. He might be from Belgium. That's my ignorance. I don't know whether he's Austrian, German, or Belgian. He sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger, basically. Sorry, I like that 10 times. See, Alex Jones had a Tumblr but got bullied off. One of the posts said, "You're locked in here with us now, old man, and all the frogs are gay." Tara, you are very much right that the LGBT community gets fucked over by Christians. Well, by the power brokers in the Christian world. Obviously, lots of Christian people, active supporters, or they're either part of the LGBT community themselves or they're active supporters of, but relatively few people in positions of power in the Christian world are helpful to the LGBT community, which is very shitty, very, very shitty. Misfoxification. People are upset about the amazing atheist. What did he do now? I know he's spent years being a racist, misogynist arsehole. This is why I don't identify as an atheist, because anyone who knows me knows by any reasonable definition I'm an atheist, but I'm not going to be an atheist activist online when the overwhelming majority of online atheists are complete fucking assholes. No way I want to be associated with those people. Henry, you think the Scottish Labour senator should be next PM? He is a fun guy, definitely. But again, see, the problem is senators can't be leader of the party, can't be prime minister. You have to change to the lower house and win a seat and then be prime minister. Like that's what Penny Wong would have to do. She's my favourite Australian politician, definitely. Shows that Harry. See the Bolt Report Group agnosticism for the win. Oh, there you go. So, Megalich, if you're not convinced there's a God, you're an atheist. Isn't that what an agnostic is? Or is an atheist is literally the root of the word, the definition of the word, not theist. That is literally believing there is no God. Whereas an agnostic is, I don't know, one way or the other. But an atheist is, there is no God. Well, Megalich, I don't want to get into an argument about semantics, but I really argue about semantics and the literal definition of atheist and the root of the word. A in front of theist means not theist, as in not believing theist. So that may be your personal definition of an atheist, and I'm fine with that being your personal definition. But if you're going to really argue semantics, I'm the wrong person to do it with because I get super pedantic. Yes. My first one, you're amazed Turnbull's still alive. You mean that literally, or you're just surprised he's still leader? That happens so fast. Like I was it 12:30? He called the presser. I was like, man, I was just seeing stuff on. I was taking a break from something. I looked on Twitter and people going, "Oh, party room! Oh, Turnbull's declared the leadership vacant. Oh, Dutton's running. Oh," and it was like, bam! It happened really suddenly. Like I was probably only half an hour from when I first heard it to when the result came out. My literal answer when people say, "Do you believe there's a God or not?" My answer is, I think the question is utterly irrelevant, completely meaningless. Because I think all organized religions are 100% wrong. I think every organized religion is completely and utterly wrong. The belief system, they're all fairy tales as far as I'm concerned. But if there was such a thing as a supreme being that created humans, the concept that this supreme being would give a shit whether the humans believed in them or not is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're saying, like, oh, God is a supreme being, makes everything wonderful, but has this human failing of being really vain and wants to punish people for not worshipping him. I mean, that just does my head in. The concept that someone can go, supreme, all-knowing being, created everything, it's beyond time and space, beyond our understanding, but is still really shallow and vain and will punish you literally for eternity solely because you don't believe in and worship them. That's so fucking stupid. It does my head in that people can have such a fucked up belief system. It's absolutely bizarre. Henry, I'm actually with you on that. It's while the leadership spill in the Libs was funny today, there's been, in my personal opinion, a practical positive outcome, namely Dutton's out of his portfolios because he's a deranged, power-crazed piece of shit. Like, he was, actively pushing the brutal torture of asylum seekers. He was actively trying to move Australia more and more towards a police state. And there's nobody apart from Abbott in the Liberal Party who's as much of a zealot as Dutton. So there is going to be an improvement with him off the front bench because he is fucking deranged. David, are you paraphrasing the 70s rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar there? If God knew the future would have waited 2,000 years till there was a more effective method of sending message. That is actually a line that Judas sings in Jesus Christ Superstar. Did you think your words today would reach the whole nation? Israel in 4 BC has no mass communication. How many times did I listen to the Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack as a kid? I grew up Catholic, and that's a coincidence. You didn't realize you were paraphrasing Jesus Christ Superstar, because you were. Yeah, I grew up Catholic, and my older siblings had the Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack, and I quite liked it, and I listened to it thousands, I don't know, so many times. That and Godspell. Didn't listen to Godspell as much. I listened to Jesus Christ Superstar so many times. I really liked it. So much so that I can remember that relatively obscure lyric from it. Henry, you think Shorten should lead with the slogan, I'm going to build a wall, what, between us and Queensland? Okay. Shorten's campaign slogan is, I'm not that guy. That's all he's done, and it's proven to be really quite effective. He's not pushed himself with any significant policies. His whole campaign is, I'm not that guy, and it's going to work for him. Took me ages to work out what you're saying there, Wolfer. It's weird that you pronounce agnostic as agnostic rather than agnostic. because yes, it is. If you leave the A off, you'd pronounce the word Gnostic. English makes no sense. English makes no sense at all. You have hit the nail on the head. Ha! David. Yes. Okay. We're of the same vintage. That's the thing we used to sing at school as well. Jesus Christ Superstar bombing around the block on his Yamaha. The line in the actual soundtrack is Jesus Christ Superstar, do you think you're who they say you are? And yeah, as kids, we thought we were hilarious singing Jesus Christ Superstar bombing around the block on his Yamaha. Then there was another couple lines I remember, something like cop says stop, he does not. I don't remember what they're saying. But yes, kids who think they're funny. Kids aren't funny, kids are stupid. Ha! I like that line, Miss Foxification. Dear the kid, burn his balls on the petrol lid. Oh, you knew a version of it too, Henry. Okay. See, that one, that must have been a regional one because I never heard that at all. What's your one, Thelonious? Cops get him, he don't care because he's wearing his bulletproof underwear. I think that might, yeah, that might be what I heard. So cop says stop, he does not because he's wearing bulletproof underwear. I think that might have been the line, yes. Obviously, there were regional differences. They're very similar, but there are regional differences. And that was the thing, everyone, because anyone comes up with something on the internet and it spreads worldwide really quickly now. But you kids today, you don't realize the equivalent of memes would somehow travel vast distances pre-internet. Like I would remember like stuff we were doing at school, whatever was the catchphrase or whatever at school, you go to a completely different part of the country and school kids would have the same catchphrase or a really similar one, like a regional version of the same catchphrase. So all I can work out is that what would happen is, someone would come up with it locally and it'd catch on, everyone would do it. And then someone would be on holidays and run into some other kids on holidays and they do, we do the thing with, and the kids think, it's funny, They take it back to their school and it catches on at their school and you end up with some local variants of the, in jokes, catchphrases, noises, basically the equivalent of memes. But Tara, sports carnivals, inter-school sports carnivals would be a big one. Yes, that's another one. I said holidays because I remember a specific one where I was on holidays and there were these local kids where I was, and they had a catchphrase that was almost the same as the one that was at my school about 1,000 kilometers away. It was really weird. Henry, like screaming, yo, and catching a mad wave or trick on a motor skate. Yeah. Stuff happens. I remember a friend was obsessed with this story he read about rumors and particularly political rumors and how quickly they traveled. And this was back when Carter was president. And the story goes, this journo, he was flying from New York to LA. And before he left New York, he was talking to some other journos and he made up a rumor about President Carter. He said, do you know the latest about Carter? I heard from someone inside the White House, blah, 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 blah. Like he made it up then and there. No one had said it. And they're all, I could imagine. And then he went to the airport, got on a plane, went to LA. And he says when he landed in LA, he got to the newsroom for the network in LA. And people in there were saying, hey, did you hear the latest about Carter? And it was the fake rumor that he'd made up, within a couple of hours, and this was in the 80s, within a couple of hours, the rumour had crossed the country. So, yeah, it's weird. What was it? Kid song, Pizza, Pizza, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Pizza. I do not know that one. That's one I have not caught out. Yes, Feeling Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. Long, David, it's a long way to the shop if you want a sausage roll. That's classic. Again, for non-Australians or very young Australians, might not remember, AC/DC had the classic hit, It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll, one of their classic hits. And yes, as kids, we thought it was hilarious to change that to It's a Long Way to the Shop If You Want a Sausage Roll. Oh, my word, we thought we were funny. Okay, I'm slightly surprised I'm still going. I'm going to get some ice. Ah! I have some mint. After dinner mint. Henry, you just got back from Stradbroke. And the temps Wollongong freezing. Don't know how. Yeah, we actually had. This is the coldest winter we've had, I don't know, in a decade. We've had really mild winters for the last couple of years. But this one actually had, particularly in the suburbs and country areas around Melbourne, getting sub-zero temperatures for the first time. Oh, I finished that one. Fair enough. That'll do. Minty drink. My peppermint. Bingo was his name-o. Time for puns. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. How is that a pun? I don't get that at all, Tendai. Ha! Oh, good. Tara, okay, yes. That was where I grew up in the country too. We're definitely showing our ages. In the country, they used to have manual telephone exchanges where the operator would manually connect you to various people and they could listen to all the calls. Yeah. You're saying it's the most dry winter as well. I don't know that it's been more dry than other winters because we've had a lot of dry winters. And maybe I'm just saying that because it just pissed down rain over the weekend and there's been showers ever since. We seem to be getting showers all week. Yes, Tara, we are probably going to have a truly heinous bushfire season, like horrifically bad, like the one we had about 10 years ago that wiped out whole towns. There is probably just going to be absolutely heinous bushfires this summer. There's already been unexpectedly bad bushfires in New South Wales this early, caught everyone by surprise. But by the time it gets to January, we are probably going to be so far up shit creek. It's really quite disturbing to think of how bad this bushfire season might be. And you're right, Miss Foxification, that we could get El Nino, which would mean even more reduction in rainfall, which would suck. Henry, why is being PC hated when the education system rewards facts and truth? We crossed into a surreal area in it really started to pick up steam in the 90s when conservative political forces, people who used to pride themselves on I make my decisions based on evidence and results. I don't do things that I think is a good thing to do. I do things if I can get a result. And that was a reasonably accurate criticism that could be made of the left. Particularly Republicans could say it about Democrats in the US, in as much as people in the left or in progressive parties did have a tendency to make policy decisions on, I want to achieve this outcome. I think this is the good and moral thing to do. I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I believe this is the right thing to do, so I'm going to do it. Whereas conservatives would say, I don't work like that. I will only promote a policy that has evidence supporting it. And in the 90s, it started to switch to ideology above all else. Hey, Wicked, thank you. You think I make some good points? Thank you. In the 90s, a lot, and it started in America, but it spread worldwide. A lot of conservative voices started to push ideology over all else. So when actual fucking science, objective, peer-reviewed, verified science said something that conflicted with their ideology, they rejected the evidence and just said, no, I'm doing this, which is why you get conservatives rejecting climate change, despite the fact that literally all the peer-reviewed work done by climate scientists show that it's real, is caused by humans, and the potential impact is catastrophic. But because it sounds like hippie bullshit, you get conservatives arguing with it on ideological ground. Oh no, has the quality of the stream suffered? I can't even see it, so I don't know. Oh, okay. Tara, has it always been bad, or has it just gotten bad? So my question, has it been bad the whole time, or has it just gotten bad? Oh, wicked. You're a lefty as well. You agree with me? Yeah. I mean, okay, it's okay with you, Megaleech. This is the thing. There are so many things that could be okay. So it's sporadic. Okay, it's okay. Cool. Okay, so we're all okay. Yeah, and that analogy I was drawing. The first time I saw it was from an American Republican, a conservative, and I thought, oh, that is actually a pretty good point. A lot of people on the left have been driven by ideals or morals and said, I want this policy because I believe this is the right and moral thing to do, and I don't have any evidence to back that up. And the conservatives like to say, I'm only going to do evidence-based stuff. But man, that's flipped since the 90s. And it's accelerated. Like it accelerated in the Bush years. And of course, it's gone way off the fucking deep end with the Trump bullshit, just beyond belief. Oh, Henry, I kept meaning to do a video about the Barrier Reef funding scam. There is this absolute fucking bizarre story for those who don't know. Now, you think the conservatives denying climate change is even a thing, and the Barrier Reef is dying because there's a number of contributing factors. Climate change is right up there. And out of the blue, Turnbull announced almost $500 million in government funding to this group, the Barrier Reef Protection Group. And it's like, okay, noble. But then you found out this group is basically a conservative lobby group for fossil fuel industries, and that there was no, like, the idea of like, oh, someone should get $500 million to save the Barrier Reef, and it goes to this fucking conservative industry lobby group because they have Barrier Reef in their name. And there appears to have been no oversight, like it was just a decision to give this lot money. And Malcolm Turnbull's wife used to be a director of this outfit. And see, I've actually just finished a role doing some tender documentation for a government department. And basically, the rules are if you're spending more than $100,000 of government money, you have to jump through a whole fucking bunch of hoops to show that you've made a fair decision. Like it has to be open to competition, and you have to show how you made your decision. You have to show why one was better than the other, and that's if it crosses $100,000. Turnbull has just backed up a truck with $500 million and just handed it over, and it's like, this is some bullshit right here. Particularly just the barrier reef unsavable. I think you will have a hard time finding a sadder bunch than scientists who work with the Great Barrier Reef. They are very gloomy. They are not very happy. I'm certainly not in a position to say it's unsavable. I don't know enough. I know die-off is a recurring problem with the reef, but I see scientists being really, really troubled by incredibly extensive bleaching on the reef, and they worry that it's unrecoverable. I don't know that the people who know the reef are saying it's definitely unsavable. I know they're pretty fucking depressed though. Oh yeah, we can. That's another one. Yeah, Tony Abbott and his policies and Liberal Party policies brutalising people who are on support payments from Centrelink, people with disability, the elderly, people out of work, people trying to find work. Yep, they've been demonised and they've been treated like shit. The changes to Centrelink over the last half dozen years have just been so cruel. It's absolutely ridiculous. This foxification, you're saying 2/3 of the coral's been bleached over the last couple of summers. Oh, yeah, Murphy's fine. The basic card thing is fucking evil. For those who don't know what that is, it's the concept, and this gets pushed around the world. It's basically instead of giving someone welfare payments, they get a card that they can't change into money ever, and you can only buy certain things at certain stores. And the line is, this stops the dog bludgers from wasting their money on booze and drugs. But it's like, it's fucking cruel and demeaning. It's fucking awful. Yeah, so yeah, if you've never heard of the basics card, it's fucking evil. It's absolutely awful. Yeah, Henry, there are parts of the reef that are still fine because, of course, the reef is huge. Like, God, who knows how it's hundreds of kilometers long, if not thousands of kilometers long. But and so you can go to parts of the reef that are still incredibly beautiful because it's an amazing amazing thing. But yeah, it's not looking good. Mofasine, you think the welfare system in the Expanse is like a basics card? I don't know. Are you talking about in the books? I've watched 1.5 seasons of the Expanse, and I haven't really seen anyone talking about a welfare system in that. Still think they might get into in the books. Wicked X, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. It's the old saying, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Yeah, Catherine Hall, basics cards have been implemented in basically some of the most disadvantaged communities. So people whose lives are already shit are being marginalised even further. And you get dickheads like that Twiggy Forest wanker who's actively pushing for basic cards, like a prick who's ripped billions of dollars out of Australia in mining and funneled it all off to tax havens. Shit he had no right to. But he gets to tell people on support payments how to live their lives when he's fucking ripped off the Australian public billions of dollars. Yes, you may be right. The rich use the most drugs and child porn. Yes, and that's the other thing. Like the other thing that really goes hand in hand with crushing people on support payments and saying you should have this cashless card is saying, oh, we need to drug test welfare recipients because they're wasting all our tax dollars on drugs. And places in America have done that, and they've actually found below average positive results from the drug tests, and the cost of implementing the drug tests far outweighs any saving by cutting people off welfare because they're on drugs. It's ideology over reality. It's being fucking brutal to people that life's already being brutal to. Chapter Sultan, wouldn't it be cost more for the government to make the cards than me? I don't know. Again, it's not about cost saving though, man. It's brutal. Oh, chapter, how do you counter people's arguments that are pro card? It's very hard to, because they're driven. The card thing is driven by an ideology that people on welfare are bad. So we say to them, like, this is really fucked. It's demeaning people. It's cruel. It's counterproductive. They don't care. They think people on welfare should be punished. So when you say you shouldn't do this cashless card because it's a really cruel punishment, they're like, good, that'll make him get off welfare. Good, you be cruel to him. So, proof thoughts, are drugs popular over there? Depends with who, I guess. I think, drugs are popular world. You just reminded me, there's this 90s industrial band that I like called Consolidated. They played sort of industrial with hip hop leanings, a bunch of white guys, and they're called Consolidated. And they used to do this thing on their albums where between tracks, they do an open mic thing at their live concerts. They get people to say things in the mic, and they put some of the stuff from their live gigs between tracks on the albums. And sometimes it was people who were supporters of the band because they were like radical left, vegetarian, whatnot. And some of the interstitials would be like people who supported them. And some would be really conservative people who went to the gig because they like industrial, but they got really upset at the politics. That's it, Thelonious Press. One more song. Yes, that's one of them. But you made me think of them approved thoughts when you asked, are drugs popular? Because someone gets up on the microphone and said, what do you think of drugs? And one of the guys in the band picks the microphone, what do we think of jobs? Well, we value jobs that give people a sense of purpose. We value jobs that enrich someone's lives. We don't value jobs that are oppressive and cruel and hurt people. And then there's this pause and he goes, oh, wait, did you say drugs? And he just repeated the same thing. We support drugs that give people's lives meaning. It's really good because he just misheard the guy said, what do you think of drugs? And he thought it said, what do you think of jobs? So he gave this big lefty speech about jobs. And then he said, oh, wait, you said drugs? And he just said exactly the same stuff, but about drugs, which I thought was quite funny. Mind you, those guys had it so easy because I crack up listening back to it. Like, they were super angry about Bush the First and his Gulf War, which was fucking nothing compared to Bush the Second and his Gulf War. And then they're going on about the savings and loan crisis, which was a financial crisis, which is nothing compared to the global financial crisis that happened later. It's really funny. It's like everything that they're getting worked up about in the 90s, stuff way fucking worse happened 10, 20 years later. Is it kind of the same, but worse? Gulf War again, but worse. Financial crisis again, but worse. Criminality within the government, but worse. I mean, they were railing against George Bush the First in the 90s. Can't even imagine how they'd react to Donald Trump. It's like, oh my God. Ooh, Henry, that's an interesting concept. You reckon harvesting water will create jobs in disadvantaged communities, maintaining pumps? Look, man, here's the thing. On top of everything else, like, we were talking about ideology over reality and conservatives not liking the idea of accepting climate change and promoting renewable energy because they think it sounds like hippie bullshit. But economically, renewable energies are far more sustainable than coal and oil, and will create far more jobs. Coal and oil only continue to be useful because of subsidies. Drop all the subsidies on them and switch the subsidies to solar and other renewables. Like, there's all sorts of experiments that can be done in water-generated power. Alternative and renewable energies are job creators for the future. Coal and oil are not job creators. There are less and less jobs in those everydays and more costs every day. And they only exist because of the billions of dollars in subsidies. Wicked, only if you do not need to store said energy. Are you saying renewables can't be stored? We are seeing significant, like radical improvements in battery storage. I mean, like Tesla gets all the news. Don't need to cat fuck, Wicked. Oh, that's an interesting question, Chapter. Is there a source of information that lists the countries in order of education, health, welfare, what type of systems they have in place to rank higher? I would say probably yes. I would start with a Google search myself. I feel like that's something the UN would do. I know there are all sorts of different global rankings for education and quality of life and whatnot. Wicked, take off your caps lock. Yeah, I'm sure there are a whole bunch of studies done into how well various countries perform on education, health, general quality of life, energy security. Oh dear. Oh, Henry, you're right that we've seen precious little from governments here who do anything preventative. They don't even do long-term fixes. They only do short-term fixes. I mean, like particularly under Howard, they stopped spending on infrastructure so much that like the roads were collapsing and, capitalism was in danger. They're like so short-sighted in the way they look at things. I did hear, Chap, the idea of Tesla grabbing a bunch of CSIRO scientists that are going to. I'm looking that dude up. Oh, he's an interesting looking guy. Clive Matthew Wilson is a New Zealand writer. He's a motor mechanic. Okay, I'm assuming this is who you're talking to. Okay. Oh God, there's nothing there. Sorry. There's not much about him on Wikipedia. It's like a paragraph. Oh, okay. You're saying The Dog and Lemon is right. Okay. He wrote a book called The Dog and Lemon. Bus safety. Oh, he's really concerned about road accidents. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. That's a worthwhile thing to get worked up about, basically. Oh, Henry, I'm so anti-privatization. There are certain things that should just be run in the public interest. Like we got sold the lie that privatizing energy would result in competition and savings, and it's bullshit. And it just resulted in all the profits being siphoned offshore and all our energy bills doubling. Chapter, the New Zealand Prime Minister, she seems pretty cool. I did see that story that she declined to take a pay rise. She was scheduled to get a $12,000 a year pay rise, and she said, I don't need it, which is a nice symbolic gesture. It's just a symbolic gesture, but its gestures can be meaningful. And that was a pretty good one, I thought. Well, Tendai, cut to military spending. Military spending, well, in the US defies logic and reason. And, you know, they spend money on stuff that the actual armed forces go, we don't need that, you know. But the people signing off on the expenditure, you know, are elected by people who are employed by these military industrial companies. It's very, very, very bizarre. Yeah, and you're right, Miss Foxification. Space Force was the stupidest mutation of it ever. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Henry, what long-term preventative things are you talking about? Overseen by DSS. I also don't know who you mean by DSS. Department of Social Services? I don't know. I've noticed that misfoxification, I just saw what you said, that we haven't built a new dam in a long time. Should be going nuclear because we need desalination. We have the uranium, but it takes time. My big problem with nuclear, and I know a lot of people have pushed nuclear could get us off coal, etc., and help with climate change. The mining for uranium is incredibly destructive and polluting, and we still don't have a safe method of disposing of nuclear waste. And there are, of course, the great big questions about the safety of nuclear facilities, because we've seen some very disturbing trends. Oh, Henry, that's an interesting concept. Run a stream during Q&A. I usually don't watch Q&A because it makes me so angry and I don't want to punch my own TV. But that's actually not a bad idea. Like I could watch the ABC online and just like have some headphones listening to it and rant and spray. That could be fun, actually. Oh, I heard that Trump definitely cancelled the military. That's a nice left field one chapter. That Trump wanted his ridiculous military parade and was okay with it costing $20 million, but then apparently there was a cost revision. Said no, it's actually going to cost $90 million. She's going, oh, maybe we won't do that. Yeah, maybe we won't. I'm glad that didn't go ahead. That was ridiculous. That's what I was thinking, Catherine. I could watch it together and rant together. Man, that's actually a pretty good idea. I'm going to try and do that next Monday. Actually watch Q&A live. And because Q&A traditionally made me really fucking angry. I hate the host. He's so fucking smug. All right. If nothing comes up, I will actually try and do that next Monday night. Do a live Q&A stream, and just express my hate at the Q&A people, whoever's on the panel. That would be fun. That would be interesting to try and do, because it'd be slightly distracting if I'm listening to them and trying to talk shit at them at the same time. But I think I could probably do it. I think I could probably manage it. That's Megalich. When is Q&A? It's on Monday nights. When's it on? Q&A is on Monday nights. Oh my god! Oh my god! Next Monday has got George Christensen, Pauline Hanson, and Bob Catter on it. Oh my god! Oh! I've got to do this. When does Q&A screen? I think it's like 9:30 or something. When does Q&A screen? Oh, I'll work it out. But I think it's 9:30. Oh my god, that lineup though. That is a lineup designed to enrage me. Like my least. Yeah, absolutely triggered, Henry. Absolutely triggered. Oh my god. All right, so I'm definitely going to try and do it. So that's like 3 of my least favorite people in Australian politics: George Christensen, Bob Catter, and Pauline Hanson. Oh my fucking god. Oh wow. That sounds so full on. All right, I'm probably going to get super angry if I watch that. Oh yeah, Feeler and Sealer Q&A is in questions and answers. It's on every week on our national broadcaster ABC. It's a panel show, and there are various notables on the panel, politicians and public figures, and they talk about topics of the day. And next Monday has 3 of the most fucked conservative voices in Australia on. Oh, Jesus H. Titty fucking Christ. That is full on. That is a full on lineup. There's also someone from the Queensland Greens and someone from the Labor Party. Tendai, I don't know if it's as bad as your question, but yeah, it's basically they take questions from the audience, studio audience. They put some questions on. People submit some questions by video, and those are put to the panel. And they always put notable tweets from the Twitter sphere on. People use the hashtag Q&A. That's quite the lineup, though. That is really quite the lineup. Wow. Henry, you think I'll get a following? You may be right. You may be right. It is a good damn idea. All right, I'm definitely doing it. Next Monday, going to live stream at the same time that Q&A is on. I might try and do a test run, not with Q&A, just on my own, of I assume you can watch it on iView live. I assume that would be the Fox occasion. You suggest a Q&A cocktail, but if anything like the show, it'd be full of shit. Yeah. It'd have to be something bitter, wouldn't it? Marky Mark. Who's worse, Fraser Anning or Pauline Hanson? Well, Pauline Hanson thinks Fraser Anning is. For those who don't know Australian politics, Fraser Anning is a Conservative senator who made his first speech in the Senate where he was just a filthy racist pile of shit. Said we should have the white Australia back, should stop any Muslims coming into the country. And he talked about the final solution. And all his apologists said, oh, he didn't go to university, he didn't mean that. No, there is not a fucking racist on the planet who uses the phrase final solution by accident. That motherfucker knew exactly what he was saying. He is an absolutely worthless, unconscionable piece of shit. I mean, so is Pauline Hanson, but even she said, no, that guy's just reading straight out of the Goebbels playbook. That's completely unacceptable. Henry, you reckon Q&A's changed since the funding was threatened? You may be right. Hey, Pat, man, God, you've caught like the last 10 minutes, dude. So, yeah. I'm surprised I asked to see. I felt like I was coming down with a cold earlier. I sort of hurt when I swallowed, and I was feeling really lethargic. So there was a period, like I don't know, from like about 6:30 on. I wasn't even sure if I'd do the live stream because I was feeling really. I'm really glad I did, as per usual. I've very much enjoyed everyone. Jesus Christ. Wicked. You know what? There's a saying that says you get more flies with honey than with vinegar, or don't be a cunt and people will pay attention to you. You know? Yes, I have seen you saying that pointless electronic gadgets are very destructive, and you are, of course, correct. That is an accurate point to make. But, you know, if you're going to be a complete fucking piece of shit about it and be aggressive, people are going to go, oh, what a cunt, and ignore you. That's the way humans work. Henry Tarr, you reckon all browsing history and comments should be scrutinized and investigated? I know. See, when I told all those people that I thought they should have a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire jammed up their ass, I was joking. And all that porn, I'm pretty sure that was because someone hacked my Wi-Fi. I'm absolutely sure that's why all that porn's showing up in my browsing history. So I'm glad I got out in front of that. Was able to address that issue to the public. And I'll now be retiring from public life to spend more time with my family. Thank you all for your time. I won't be taking any questions. So people say, you should be in politics. Like, I would basically have to be like Donald Trump to go into politics, to just steamroll through and just go, I don't fucking care. You're upset that I said that shit. I don't care. Here's, from a political point of view, here's what I'm trying to do. You want to pick on the fact that I got really angry at that person and suggested they were the product of some unholy mating of that fungus that grows in showers and an inbred farm animal. Like, okay, sure, sure, I said that. I said that, but you're taking it out of context. In what context is that fair? Oh, that person's a piece of shit. I fucking hate them. Look, I reckon Australia's policy for electing senators is so bizarre. I could absolutely get elected as a senator because then it's the whole, I don't give a shit what you think. Yeah, Wicked, you're a cunt, okay? You're an obnoxious fucking cunt. And yes, I'm aggressive and it's my live stream. I get to do whatever I want. I get to say whatever I want and I get to control the live stream, okay? Stop being a self-important fucking wanker and stop abusing other people in the stream for fuck's sake. Jesus. Like, what'd you do? Read How to Win Friends and Influence People and say, that all sounds like bullshit. I'm going to do the opposite of everything in here. What's that? Henry, you'll listen to each reporter's question for the go in front. Oh my God. As soon as anyone, if someone really wants me to write them off as a complete fucking loser, if they just use the phrase fake news, unironically, it's like, no, you're a moron. You're an absolute moron. Mofi, you think he's doing the red pill relationship advice, is doing negging? Maybe. But I like that idea. Oh dear. I really like that username, Milk My Mantids. I'm not a boomer, I'm Generation X. All right. Boring troll is boring and goes away now. It's weird that some people don't listen when they say, hey, you're being a piece of shit and I'm not going to put up with it. You know, if I double down and be more of a piece of shit, maybe people will be friends with me. No, that often doesn't work out. Oh, Mofo, relationships. I have friends whose hobby is to troll the subreddit on relationships, like Reddit/r/relationships, and to just find really fucked situations. And some of them are so extreme, like you don't know if they're real or someone's making it up. Charlie, Thunderfoot's still relevant. To whom? I don't know. I'm sure he still has fans. Yeah, Henry, I like naughty chairing people because it's really treating them like infants. Then a timeout. It's got a timeout. You got to sit on the stair until you understand what you've done. Oh my God. Oh God. So, Philly, did I hear about Trump arguing with Vietnam vets about apocalypse now? No, that actually does sound hilarious. And I do want to know more. Do you want to know more? I suddenly had a flash to Starship Troopers. Do you notice it straight up comes up? Trump spent a meeting with Vietnam vets arguing about Apocalypse Now. According to the Daily Beast, Trump spent a meeting with the vets arguing about Apocalypse Now. Trump's reported argument was factually demonstrably wrong, yet he refused to concede the point, instead wasting time. Oh, this apparently happened in March 2017. Okay. So he didn't know what Agent orange was. Oh, and he got tied up in Robert Duvall's famous line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." And he wouldn't let it go and started asking people, go, "Is Agent Orange the same as napalm?" Were they really talking about napalm when they were talking about one attendee described the meeting as, quote, "really fucking weird." I think that probably sums up every meeting with Trump everywhere. Really fucking weird. Oh, I love that, Tara. You had a teacher made you stand in a bin in high school to make you shut up. Did it work? Did it work? Oh, Batman, you're hearing that the Spud will try again on Thursday. That would be so good, because if he challenges again, he'll win. Because Turnbull did the high stakes thing of calling the poll before the opponents had a chance to mobilise, and it worked for him, barely. But yeah, if his opponents have the chance to mobilise, they'll roll him. Oh my God, I'll have so much material. It'll be so good. Henry, you really like that I eyeballed the Q&A letter. Oh, it's made for me. Milk. Trump 2020, we briefly discussed this, and I can't deal, man. I live in hope that Trump will be in jail or at least disgraced before 2020. But I have admitted for a while nothing about the Trump presidency makes any sense, and trying to apply logic to anything that happens with Trump is pointless. So, man, I just do not know. To me, logic would suggest no way, but logic doesn't apply to Trump. So who fucking knows, man? Catherine, you're right. If Dutton has another push that soon, I'll get to talk about it in Thursday's stream. Do a stream on Thursday. Wow, that would be really good for me. That would be really good material for me if Dutton did another spill attempt by Thursday. Sorry, Henry. Saying Trump is a puppet. It just made me think of the debate with Clinton where she straight up called him a Russian puppet. And he went, "No puppet, no puppet, I'm no puppet, you're the puppet." And it's just like, it's stupid. It burns. It's like terrible. Yeah, Catherine, good and not good in the same way. I don't know. Dutton is a thoroughly horrible human, or excuse for a human. I don't think there's enough time between now and whenever the next election is for Dutton to do much damage. Because, I mean, the thing is, there's the one rumor that if Turnbull suspected another spill coming, he would call an election just to fuck everyone over, and so he wouldn't get knocked off as prime minister. But even if he didn't, if Dutton did a spill and succeeded, there is a really high chance that Turnbull would just go, "Fine, fuck you all. I resign from the Liberal Party, but not from the Parliament, and I'm going to sit on the cross benches, and I'm now going to support a no confidence vote in the government." Because the government would not have a majority at that point, and the chance of a no confidence motion succeeding and forcing an election would be very, very high. Yes, May is a long way away, but there are a number of triggers for an early election. And I forget what the exact constitutional rules are, but I think we are close enough to the last date for the election that the Prime Minister can just call an election. But yeah, if they knocked Turnbull off, I think almost certainly Turnbull would be in revenge mode, and he'd go, all right, okay, fuck you all. And he'd be like, I resign from the Liberal Party, but not from the Parliament, sitting on the crossbenches. I'm now supporting a no confidence vote in the government, which stand a very high chance of getting up. And then there'd be an election. But basically, it's a fucking shit show. It's like, hey, Angry, could you sum up Australian politics for the rest of the world who may not know what Australian politics is like? Australian politics is a shit show. It's been going downhill for the last decade, quite honestly. Ridiculous. Oh, yeah, Pat, you're right. Well, Victoria has a state election later this year. New South Wales has a state election next year. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? Anyway, look, times are moving on, and I'm surprised I lasted this long. So I want to thank all you fine people for spending some time with me. Had good fun. Yeah, if this rumor about Dutton making another move by Thursday comes true, we're going to have a lot of fun. At Thursday live stream. We'll see one. But now, yeah, it's almost definite. I'm going to do a live stream while watching Q&A next Monday with some of the most reprehensible Conservative voices in Australia on it. I ought to be pretty goddamn livid watching that, quite honestly. Heidi might see VidCon. Oh yeah, VidCon, fucking end of next week, isn't it? So soon. Thanks everyone for coming along. I had a really good time as usual. Hope you did too. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon. But until then, say bye there. Put your potatoes out, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye now.